It's time for another edition of Lewis at Large, 60 minutes of smart talk radio featuring guests from all walks of life in conversation with your host, Warner Lewis. So sit back and lend us your ears for the next hour. Now here with today's first guest is the host of Lewis at Large, Warner Lewis.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis. Once again from the flight deck, and of course that means some very smart talk radios in your future. And this segment, perfect for this time of the year. We're going to be talking to Dr. Rani Whitfield. He's a board-certified family physician with a certificate of added qualification in sports medicine. He's known as the Hip Hop Doc. He combines hip-hop culture and health messages to empower you and I to change unhealthy lifestyles. He's the founder of Hip Hop Medical Moment. It's a 1-minute audio series on a variety of medical topics. He's a medical consultant for BET.com and also consults for the Coca-Cola Company as well. All around good guy. Dr. Whitfield, how are you, my friend?
Oh, great, Warner. How are you doing? Happy New Year to you, by the way.
Yeah, you bet. You too. Well, this is good gosh. Every year this time of the year rolls around, we all feel kind of like, okay, what am I going to do differently this year than I did last year? Let's start with this premise. What, in your opinion, we try so many different diets, and
right.
None of them seem to work. What are we doing wrong?
I think there's a problem. We're focusing on the diet, and so many of us fail at diets because of the negative paradigm that surrounds it. You know, you can't eat this, you can't do that, you need to do this 20 times a day. And it's just not sustainable. It's not doable. We have I'm sure most of us that are your listeners have busy lifestyles. You know, I'm a physician. I got a daughter. I'm in a band. Trying to be the hip-hop doc on top of all that. So I understand that people are busy. And when you encounter patients in your practice, you know, everybody's on the go. They're rushing. So it's hard to sustain some of these diets that limit you to 500 calories a day and want you to, you know, juice 17 times a day. And sometimes it's not affordable. So when I'm talking to my patients, I'm always trying to encourage them to do things that will get them healthier, but you have to start smart and start small. So small, obtainable goals that will actually reinforce what you're doing seems to work better than setting these New Year's resolutions, which you know, Warner, as well as I do. About 50% of them are gone within the first month, but over 75% maybe by March or April. So those that are able to maintain one New Year's resolution, saving more money, quit smoking, it's sometimes very amazing. So I always encourage my patients, again, to start small, but to start smart.
You're a former athlete. You probably still play a little bit of ball with your buddies, pick up games from now and then. We all understand, those of us that have exercised from time to time in the past know that we feel better. We know that sort of rush that you get. And yet to get up and do it that first and second time until it becomes habit seems so difficult. What advice maybe can you give to people that this time of the year in particular, they're watching all kinds of things on TV, a little bit more lethargic? What can we do to kind of get going and not feel like it's quite such a chore?
Well, you're still my thunder, Warner, because you took one of my favorite words, and it's habits. And I think we need to start developing habits, more positive habits, and getting rid of the resolution concept. I'm okay with those who can make New Year's resolutions and really stick to them. But again, statistics show that we really don't subscribe to that. But to get going, do something simple, small, and easy, like walking. And when I talk to people about trying to start an exercise program or routine, I'm going to ask you this, Warner. What do you think is the most successful or beneficial exercise routine or program that you can do?
Well, my guess would be swimming, but I don't know.
Well, I would tell you it's going to be whatever exercise that Warner's going to do. So if I tell you to swim and you hate swimming or you don't have an access to a pool, 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to do that. And I think physicians, to our own fault, sometimes recommend things to patients that are not either feasible or doable. Now, it's not giving an excuse not to sweat. Some African-American women particularly have issues with getting their hair wet. They don't want to get their hair wet because they get their hair done. Well, is it your hair or your health? You know, I always want to do a topic or a talk on that. Hair versus health, you know, and your health is definitely more important. So you've got to find something that you're going to do that you enjoy to some degree. Exercise can be work, but, you know, not everything is considered exercise. When you're out cutting grass, you're gardening, you're dancing with family and friends, that is a form of exercise. So I don't always call it exercise. I like to refer to it as physical activity. So there's got to be some self-motivation. You've got to get yourself started at some point. And I can't do it for you as a physician. My job is to motivate, educate, and to hopefully get you to initiate something that will get you going. But there's got to be some motivation as well when it comes to that. But just getting started is key. Once most people get started, like you said, they feel that rush, they start to feel better, and then they can continue doing these habit-changing things that could save their life.
You've been pretty active most of your life, but was there ever a moment in time where you thought, you know what, all of a sudden I'm looking at myself and I'm not that healthy, I'm not that good a shape? Did you ever have one of those moments?
Oh, a couple of them, and probably the one that sticks out the best, unfortunately, was when I was in medical school because of the time constraints. You're studying, after class, class from 8 to 5, and then you're studying from 5 to 6 in the afternoon, and sometimes 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So you're not always making the best food choices. You're not always very active and not very healthy. And, believe it or not, at that point, I committed at that point to playing in an intramural basketball league at the school. But again, it was only the games. We weren't doing a lot of activity outside of it. But it was more than just being sedentary. There was a point where I was like, look, I can't. I'm supposed to be the pillar of health, the role model for my patients and family and friends. So I've got to get busy. So if you go to my social media pages, Twitter and Instagram, you'll see I post my workouts now that I do. Not so much to show off because I don't look that great doing them, but more to influence my patients and encourage them that, hey, I'm not just telling you to do some things that I don't do. I want you to believe that I am living what I'm telling you every day.
If you just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck, again, of Lewis at Large, in a segment here talking about your health with Dr. Rani Whitfield. He's a board-certified family physician with a certificate of added qualification in sports medicine. He's known as the Hip Hop Doc. He's got his own 1-minute audio series on medical topics called the Hip Hop Medical Moment. He's also a consultant for BET.com, and he also does some work for the Coca-Cola Company as well. Doc, what about this subject here? I know that the health of African Americans is a very real concern for you. Why, in your opinion, do you feel that they are either A, more at risk, or we want to pay special attention there?
Well, there's a lot of disparities in healthcare, and there's many reasons why African Americans tend to not be as healthy, whether it be lack of insurance, lack of access to care, socioeconomic status. There are many reasons, but even in some of my educated patients that have insurance, sometimes they are treated differently by physicians. They're not treated as aggressively. So the diagnosis of certain diseases are made later in the stages of the disease process. So if you have prostate cancer, colon cancer, that's diagnosed early in any individual, it's always better than finding it in the later stages. So there's many reasons that I can say that, but speaking to that as well, African Americans have some of the highest rates of high blood pressure in the world, and that's one of the major risk factors for heart disease and stroke. So I'm actually a national spokesperson for the American Heart Association. You mentioned some of my affiliations in the past, and so one of my big pushes is to get more information out about the management and control of high blood pressure, which can slowly kill you. We talk about those silent killers. Diabetes is a silent killer. Hypertension is a silent killer. It's not just living with those diseases; it's dying slowly with those diseases. So there's many reasons, and there's some scientific reasons why we have not figured out why African Americans' blood pressures are higher, why they may have more risk of certain diseases like sickle cell, but we have to address those issues. And so part of my goal as a family practitioner is prevention. We can prevent these things from happening. It's much better than treating them in the later stages.
You mentioned social media. I'm curious, from your position as a physician, with so much medical information out there via the internet and otherwise, is that, in your opinion, a good thing, or do you have people out there doing a lot of self-diagnosis, which sometimes may not be the best idea?
It's good and bad, and you hit the nail on the head. Many of my patients will read the social media post and try to do some of their own self-management. On the flip side, many of my patients will read some of the social media posts and then schedule an appointment. So, it just depends on the individual. I pride myself in having good patient rapport with my patients, good bedside manner. I went to Meharry Medical College, and they stressed the interaction with the patient. So I'm not the doctor who's going to get you in 3 and 4 minutes. I'm going to sit and talk to you. I'm going to cry with you. I attend funerals. I attend graduations. I'm a family practitioner, and I believe in connecting with the patient so that I can influence behavior and changes. One of the biggest issues that we have in the African-American community is men don't tend to go to the doctor, and you probably heard of several of the barbershop initiatives. Well, my goal is to reach these men, so I go out in the community and speak all of the time. I just did an HIV/AIDS awareness program where I was playing basketball with some high school students, and many of their parents came out, and I probably picked up 5 or 6 patients just from my presence in the community. And that wasn't my goal at all. My goal was to connect with the kids, be a part of the event, and let them know, about HIV/AIDS and raise awareness. But in that same breath, people are like, hey, this guy's actually living what he's preaching, so it's a good way to connect with the community. And that's one of the things I've been strong about, Warner. It's just connecting with my community. I love the national interviews and traveling and speaking. I've been to Uganda as a hip-hop doc and got to do my little music and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, treating patients and caring for those in my hometown has been a blessing. And that's why, platforms like yours are great. It allows me the opportunity to help people start this new year off right. I mean, we've got to get the new year started off right. I'm sure many of your listeners are inspired and ready to just wipe the slate clean and get the new year going, but they're probably approaching this the wrong way. So hopefully today we can give them some sustainable things, some doable things that they can, start doing so they can manage their lives in a better way.
What about just the approach to good health, exercise, all of this, but in the difference in the generations? Let's just say just between the baby boomers and say the millennials now that are in their early 20s and either starting off in jobs, graduating from college, et cetera. Tell us about that. What you see.
They call me an old spirit. I mean, I grew up in Louisiana, but my parents are from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, Alabama. That's their stomping grounds, and where I have a lot of relatives. And, they walked everywhere. They didn't have cars. If they did, it was only one in the family. So we ate things that were from Mother Nature. A lot of things were cooked fresh, and they ate ham and pork and all that kind of stuff, which speak to some of the talking points I'm going to have. But I think that we've gotten so caught up in this technology. People are indoors all the time. And one of my key examples is that a lot of people think that cold weather causes the flu. Cold weather keeps people indoors, and when you're indoors, you're around people that are sick, so germs and fomites are spread. So we're not getting outside the house. We're in front of these computers. Kids are watching too much TV. We're not getting enough rest. So there's so many different things. Our society is so fast now and moving so fast. Lately, I've been cooking with my daughter, and it's been a pleasure to work with her in the kitchen to mess up and make mistakes, but that bonding time is really, really cool. But we also get outside and play basketball and run and do things that I don't see kids doing anymore. I mean, I see kids specializing in sports, but just to see kids out and playing, they don't ride bikes like they used to. They're not outdoors anymore. So we've got to pass that health concept down from generation to generation. I hope as a physician I'm able to help my daughter and her colleagues learn that the health is their most important possession. So yeah, there's definitely, to me, there's a difference in how we approach living. And so everything's not exercise and everything's not healthy, but I think the older generation was doing a lot more, had to do a lot more that would have made them healthier, not knowing that they were doing these things. Now we have access to fast food. We can, everything's so accessible via computers. I can find out what you look like and where you are 1 in 5 seconds with just a tap of a few buttons on the computer. So things are so quick and accessible. I think we're getting away from the true things that can keep us healthy.
Yeah. I know your parents and my parents probably didn't have automated garage door openers. They
did not.
They might have had maybe later stages had a remote TV, but just even those little calories. Hey, I'm curious also, how from your position as a physician, you travel around the country a little bit. How are the public school systems doing on either getting this health message across or getting these kids, younger kids, up and exercising a little bit?
It depends on where you are. I mean, some states are passing legislation and policy to demand that kids get a certain amount of PE, physical education and certain nutritional things, not allowing certain things in the schools, changing out, their dietary recommendations. But I think as a whole, we're not doing very well as a country. School is where many of these kids the majority of the time. So, even as a physician, I'm at this office 90% of the time mentally or physically, so you want to make sure that in the environments where they are, there are healthy options. Variety is best, but there should be healthy options for these young people, and they should be demanded to exercise. I mean, when I was in school, in my age group, I finished high school in 1987. We had PE until my senior year of high school. Of course, being on the basketball team, we were looking for extra ways to get in the gym and practice. But for those who hated sports, I mean, I learned how to golf, I learned how to bowl, I learned how to actually score bowling and PE. And now, some schools after 6th grade, there's no more physical education. It's an elective. And I think that should be mandatory in the schools. I think physical activity should be mandatory.
Again, we're talking to Dr. Rani Whitfield. The Hip Hop Doc has got his own medical minute, does some consulting for BET.com. He's a certified physician. He also has a certificate in qualification in sports medicine. Also does some work for the Coca-Cola Company. Talking about your health, talking about New Year's resolutions, that old thing of what am I going to do differently this year? Well, let's do this. The first thing, I've been sedentary all of 2014. You kind of touched on it earlier, but just in general, give us a plan. Give us, what should we do the first 30 days? How should we approach things?
I'm going to make it as simple as I can for you, Warner. I always tell my patients, eat what you love, but be smart about it. I want you to take small steps to exercise daily. And then, of course, I would start off with seeing your physician and getting your numbers checked. So that first 30 days, again, we're wiping the slate clean. Patients are coming in with these lists of things that they're going to accomplish. I'm going to save more money. I'm going to lose 30 pounds by March. A lot of times, I don't laugh and I don't disrespect my patients, but wait a minute. Let's be realistic about this. First of all, you're well-intentioned, but many of the New Year's resolutions are ineffective and they're not going to last. So let's look at one thing that you know that's a problem. If you're a smoker, let's focus on not smoking. What can we do to stop smoking? Whether it be a smoking cessation program, I'm going to prescribe medications that day. So that's really where I start off. And if they can make these small changes over the course of the year, usually most people can change 6 to 7 habits, not just making a resolution, but they can change 6 to 7 habits that can transform them. So if you're a soda lover, I'm not saying that you can't drink Coca-Cola, but maybe let's try the Coca-Cola mini cans and reduce the amount of calories that you're getting. So the first thing I want to recommend to you is looking at your lifestyle, maybe doing an analysis, can do some journaling and saying, hey, I'm going to have some balance and moderation in my diet. I'm going to add more fruits and vegetables. And we're going to pick one thing that you're going to focus on for the first 1 or 2 months. And then the next 1 or 2 months, you're going to maintain an initial step, but then you're going to add something else. So you stop smoking. Now you're going to start exercising daily. And so you add that to your program. So now you're not smoking for 2 months, and now you're exercising daily for 2 months. And if you miss a day or two, that's fine. We don't want to reinforce negativity. It's okay to miss. We all have lives, children, things that go on, so that's okay to miss. Some people will do better with journaling, Warner. Some people don't. I don't like to see my error. So if I miss a day, I just make a mental note of it and I keep going. But it depends on the person. And then again, like I said, we want to get into the physician to make sure your blood pressure is okay, your cholesterol is okay. Many people start these exercise programs and have no idea where they are on the health scale, and so they need to be assessed first. So again, my first plan for you is, one, to make an appointment with me. Let's go over what the plans are, what your plans are, what to do. I'll probably support some of the stuff that you're saying, but I'll say, how can we attain these goals? Let's do them in small steps. Let's be smart about it, but we do them in small steps. And as you achieve these things, you start checking these things off your checklist. By the end of the year, you've lost 15, 20 pounds. It's not going to come back. You're walking daily. You're not smoking anymore. And you've added some variety, balance, and moderation to your diet. And so you're eating things that are healthy, but you're not depriving yourself of anything that you don't want. So you can have a Coca-Cola, you can have a slice of cake. It's not that you're overindulging in these things, but you can have them when you want to. And this is realistic stuff. I mean, patients come in, I'm going to go from not eating any red meat or eating red meat every day to veganism by the end of the month. I've never seen it happen. Very few people can do that. So we've got to be realistic about our approach and pick things that are doable and that you can implement easily, and then you can sustain them as well.
So we're going to kind of boil the frog 1 degree at a time. Is that the idea?
That would be my approach, and that's what I've seen to be most effective. I do have that rare patient that comes in with the 10 New Year's resolutions, and they maintain them all. But I'll be honest with you, Warner, I'm a cheater, and if you told me I couldn't have cookies for the rest of my life, I'm going to have some cookies. I'm just going to make sure you don't see me eating them. So it's almost, you feel like you're cheating yourself and you're letting somebody else down. So, I never tell a patient unless there's some special medical concerns or restrictions not to eat this or not to drink that. And if you look at the history of diabetes is not caused by sugars. Diabetes is exacerbated by sugars. It's a problem with the pancreatic system where you're either unable to metabolize the blood sugar that's in your system or you don't have the receptors to receive it. So, you got the different types of diabetes, but many people put out a misconception that sugar causes diabetes, and that is not the case. So, we've got to get good health information out first and foremost, and then we've got to find a way to implement these things into our program that are sustainable, that we can actually do.
You work for, you do some work and consulting work for Coca-Cola. I'm curious as to corporate America's that's sort of a unfair big stereotype, but when you look and you think of the big ones like McDonald's, you think of some of the big food manufacturers, some of the beverage companies, et cetera, do they have any kind of moral responsibility here in terms of helping educate and all that, or frankly, is it really, should we just muscle up and as individuals make our own choices?
I think on both sides. I think there's some self-responsibility. The corporate companies, and they seem to have been trying to do this. There's going to be a lot of controversy. Nobody's ever going to agree. There's many physicians that would probably shoot me down for even being having an affiliation with Coca-Cola Company. But at the end of the day, I'm treating patients, and we are changing lives in the practice. And I'm just a realistic physician. When I know what people are going to do, I know they're going to come in and tell you this grandiose ideas and dreams and what they want by the end of the year, and then in September they're having a heart attack because I didn't do it. And it's very frustrating when you see that. So I have to be realistic with my patients, understand what they're going to do, and they're going to be one or two that no matter what I do, no matter what I say, they're going to do it. So yeah, there have to be some self-responsibility. The corporate companies have to have their own self-responsibility. I am one of those doers, so I believe in if you tell me that I need to do these things to be healthy, I'm going to do it myself. Many of my patients are not that way, and that's why I reach out and go in the community and try to influence them as much as I can and show them that I'm living and leading a healthy life as best as possible. But you know as well as I do, the human nature will take you in different directions, and depending on what's going on in your life, all that could change in a heartbeat.
Well, we do. This certainly is a matter in which we do have choice. It is about your weight. It is about your health. It's about the lifestyle that you lead. We've been talking to Dr. Rani Whitfield. He is a board-certified physician. He also does some consulting for Coca-Cola. He's got his own medical minute, does some consulting work for BET.com. He's known as the Hip Hop Doc. Doc, tell us, how can we find out some more information about the work that you do and some of the cool things you put out?
I'm very active on Twitter and Instagram at THA Hip Hop Doc, the Hip Hop Doc. And just find me anywhere. I'm in the universe. I tell you, there's one. I just try to stay busy. It keeps me young, keeps me active. I'm in a band, hanging out with the daughter. She's a cool kid, just growing up and saying the craziest things. It's amazing how smart they are and how smart we aren't.
Yeah. Well, so what's the name of the band?
The band is called Euphoria, and I am a bass player. I play a Fender Jazz bass, and we play from Lil Wayne to the Staple Singers. Quite fun stuff, and that keeps me grounded, keeps me sane.
So what happens when you're on call? You look down every once in a while, see if the beeper's going off.
We don't play that much, but if I'm on call, I usually get some coverage. But what's funny is half the time, most of my patients come out and support me, so I'm seeing them which is not it's not always a good thing, because I'm hoping nobody gets sick when I'm in. I have to work when I'm having fun. But you'd be amazed at the patients that support me. We actually do quite well. We've opened for some major bands, and we've traveled across the country. So we played in some pretty large venues, and many of the Baton Rouge community knows me for being a part of the band as well. So I've been very fortunate, Mr. Warner. My life has been a blessing. If I were to leave today, I would have no complaint.
Well, I do appreciate it. Again, Dr. Rani Whitfield, Hip Hop Doc, thank you so much for sharing some thoughts with us as 2015 unfolds, and hopefully we'll get some people back on track and get healthy again.
I think we will, and thanks so much for your platform. You have a great new year.
You bet. We'll be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.